make things. We use our hands, minds, and machines to build, to fix, to improve. We're known as do-it-yourselfers, home improvement fans, fix-it fanatics, inventors. At our core, though, we're all makers. So let's jump in and make something. Hi, I'm Ron Hazelton. Welcome to the show. If you've ever wondered whether it's possible to tile right over laminate countertops, the answer is yes, if you use the right materials and technique. Today you'll find out exactly how to do it. Have you ever tried to sand molding like this but been frustrated with all the corners and crevices? Well, I'll show you a quick and foolproof way to make custom sanding blocks to fit any molding profile. Then I'll hit the road and head to the mountain state, Colorado, to help a brother and sister add decorative Cove lighting to their living room. You know what? This is good stuff. If you have an outdated laminate countertop like this and you've been thinking about replacing it with tile, well, you'd be looking at quite a bit of work. First of all, you'd have to tear out the old laminate countertop and then replace it with a piece of plywood. That is until inventor Armin Tavy came up with a system for putting ceramic tile right on top of a laminate countertop like this. Hey, Armin.
Hi, Ron.
How are you? Where'd you get this idea?
Well, as a tile setter, I always felt guilty about removing an existing top and just throwing it away. I said, why not take advantage of it and find some way to get mortar to stick to it?
And you've done that?
And I've done that.
I'd like to jump right in and see how this works.
Armin starts by applying a specially designed adhesive directly to the laminate countertop.
I'm using an 1/8 inch V-notch sawtooth trowel. I found that this is the perfect size, but just the right amount of glue so that you don't have too much. You have enough to do the job, but not so much that you make a mess.
Now, this adhesive is not intended for attaching tile, but instead paper.
This is a fiberglass reinforced paper. The countertop itself, the laminate, is not friendly to mortar. We know that. So the glue sticks to the laminate, the paper sticks to the glue, mortar loves the paper, so we have a tileable surface.
All right, so this is down, and how long do you have to wait before you go to the next step?
There's no waiting.
Yeah?
You can proceed to the next step.
Which is?
Putting a thin layer of mortar on it to acclimate the surface of the paper to the product that you're going to use to install your tile. If you're painting a piece of wood, you put a coat of primer on it. Then you put the finish coat. So we're going to put a skim coat on this to get the paper ready for the finish coat.
Many countertops, like this one, have raised lips on the front edge to keep water from spilling off. To create a perfectly flat surface for the tile, Armin and I apply additional mortar to the front third of the countertop, then screed off the excess with a straight edge. Just to see how this system works on a variety of surfaces, I've set up a piece of beadboard to serve as a back wall. Once again, the adhesive is applied directly to the surface and the paper laid on top, completely bridging and concealing the grooves in the paneling underneath. Then, like the countertop, a skim coat of mortar is applied. A laminated countertop backsplash is prepped in the same way. First adhesive, then paper.
Now, what we've really done here is converted a plastic laminate countertop into
basically almost a concrete surface.
Yeah, and you've done it by adding really nominal thickness here, really.
From 0 to about a 1/16 of an inch in the front leading edge because of the slight hump in the radius of the leading edge of the countertop to keep water from dripping off the counter.
Very cool.
Before we continue, I make a trip to my truck to collect a bag of thin-set mortar I picked up earlier at the Home Improvement Center. From here on, the process is the same as for any tileable surface. The thin-set mortar is applied, then raked with a notch trowel. The ridges left by the notch trowel distribute the mortar evenly, leaving it a uniform thickness. I'm applying additional mortar to the inside corners of the bullnose tiles that line the countertop. This process, called buttering, eliminates any voids underneath, reducing the likelihood that the edge tiles might crack if they're bumped or struck. Armin inserts spacers between the edge tiles, then starts on the field. Now notice how the mortar appears wet. One of the biggest causes of tile failure is trying to cover too large an area at one time, which can allow the thin set to begin drying before the tiles are laid on top. You can avoid this problem by mixing smaller batches of mortar and working smaller sections at a time. Tapping the tiles with a rubber or plastic mallet also helps them settle into place and bond with the mortar. Spacers keep the joints a consistent width and in alignment. Now Armin has come up with his own version of the tile spacer. The disc shape keeps it sitting on top of the tile and makes it easy to remove. One side of the spacer is used on straight runs, and the other is designed for the corners where the joints intersect. With the deck tiles in place, Armin applies mortar to the back wall. Here, he starts at the bottom, then stacks one row on top of another. Once again, the spacers keep the joints uniform and prevent the tiles from slipping downward. Remember I mentioned the spacers were easy to remove? Well, now you can see what I mean. Grouting is the next step. Armin mixes his a bit on the dry side. The idea here is to use a fair amount of pressure to force the grout to the bottom of the joints, filling them completely. Then he holds the rubber float up on edge and removes the excess from the face of the tile. A damp sponge and water take care of the final cleanup. Usually this needs to be done a few times to completely remove the surface haze. Changing the water frequently helps.
So there's been no trade-off by leaving the counter here and going with this system.
Absolutely no compromise whatsoever.
So what else could you put this on besides a plastic laminate?
Just about any surface you can think of that you have on your countertop, I don't care what it is, it'll go over it, Ron. Wood, plastics, metal, just about anything.
You got any more tricks up your sleeve?
Yes, I do, Ron.
Will you come back and share them with me?
I'd be delighted.
Okay, it was fun. I got one favor to ask. Could you take us out with a few more bars of that song about the smile?
Sure. Here goes. It has magic powers, most would say, and we all would probably agree. For anyone who tries to beat it can't simply win, you see. Its length is everlasting, its touch not trick but treat, and the warmth it sends right through the air has no match, can't be beat.
Now a sanding block is the right tool to use for flattening a board like this. But what if you want to get that same flattening effect on a contoured surface like this piece of molding? Well, that's when you've got to think out of the block. Well, the truth is, to create a good contour sanding tool, I will be starting with a block, but not a block of wood. Instead, a block of rigid foam insulation.
One way to create a custom sanding block is to trace the molding outline or profile onto the end of the foam insulation block. A piece of double-stick carpet tape applied to my workbench top is a great way to hold the foam insulation in place while I work on it. I usually extend guidelines back along the face of the block. This tool, called a microplane, is actually a very fine and very sharp rasp. If it looks like something you've got in your kitchen, that's because the manufacturer uses the same technology to make high-quality lemon zesters and cheese graters. At any rate, kitchen or workshop, it's perfect for shaping foam insulation.
Now to use my contour block, I'm just going to wrap some sandpaper around it. Leave it a bit loose here on the bottom so that it can conform to the profile. Set it on the molding and begin to sand. Now, if you don't happen to have a set of micro rasps, or you just want to try a different way of shaping that rigid foam insulation, then consider this. It's something my neighbor Rick showed me.
Take a scrap piece of molding, identical to the one you want to sand, and a piece of sandpaper. Apply spray adhesive to the back of the sandpaper and to the molding. Let it get tacky, then stick the sandpaper on the molding, grit side up. Use a putty knife to press the sandpaper into the grooves and crevices. Then, take a foam block, set it squarely on top of the molding, and begin moving it back and forth. The molding shape will transfer to the foam.
Now I have an exact duplicate of the molding profile. Once again, I could just loosely hold the sandpaper on here, or I could do this.
A little more spray adhesive applied to the contoured foam block and the back of the sandpaper will allow me to attach the two securely and eliminate any chance of slipping. Finally, I trim off the excess paper and I'm ready to sand.
Now I ask you, what could be easier than this? With a piece of rigid foam insulation, some sandpaper, and spray adhesive, I can make a custom sanding block that'll fit just about any piece of molding. Well, I've got the itch to hit the road again. I'm headed for the Mile High City, Denver, Colorado. We're on our way to a neighborhood that got its start in the last century, in a house that is one of the oldest in that part of town. It's owned by a brother and sister team, Brett and Alex. And today, Sister Alex has agreed to give her brother a hand. Hey guys!
Hi, Ron.
Brett has come up with a bright idea for his living room. He wants to install Cove lighting and has ideas on where it should go.
What I'd like to see here is to bring it down about 8 inches and go ahead and leave the arch brick above the window.
Very nice brick, by the way. Did you expose that yourself?
Yes, I did.
Okay. So what are you after here? Light bouncing off the ceiling or kind of a soft glow up there in the
I'm hoping it'll soft diffuse light on the ceiling, maybe widen the room.
I had a good idea of what Brett wanted and showed him what I had in mind. So here's what I think we should do. We'll start by putting up a 1x4 ledger like this, and we'll run it all the way across the wall. Okay. And then to that, we'll attach this piece of crown molding like this. Now the nice thing about this, it's going to give us a natural sort of trough up here. And then we can put the lighting right in there and hide it.
I think that's going to look nice.
The decision is unanimous, so we head out to the backyard and get started. The ledger or backboard will be made from 1x4 lumber. To give things a little more interest, we decide to create a detail on the bottom edge. So Brett, if you'd clamp that down there, Alex, you clamp this up here. Keep your clamps pretty much close to this rear edge right here. There you go. Now we're going to shape a detail on the edge of this wood using this tool called a router. Ever used one of these before?
No.
Never.
Well, it's a rotary cutting tool. There's a cutting bit in here. You can see it spins around, and a piece of carbide steel right here on the edge. To use this, all we do is set the plate on the wood like this, and then move it along like this. I'll demonstrate, and then you guys try it out. So let's start down here at this end of the board. This bit has a ball-bearing guide that rolls along the edge of the wood, preventing the bit from cutting in too deeply. Alex, come on around here. Why don't you try it?
Okay.
The on-off switch is over here. Get it away from the wood. There you go. Now
Okay.
pull the trigger. Hold it. In no time, Alex gets the hang of it. Then it's Brett's turn. The cove we've just routed on the ledger will make it blend nicely with the crown molding. Painting the individual parts before we assemble them will save us a lot of time.
Just got paint on me.
Our next job is to attach small corner blocks to the ledger strip. These will give us a place to secure the cove molding and also hold the molding at the proper angle. Wood glue is applied to the back of the corner blocks, which are then set into place. Place the block right here on this ledger strip. Then using this nail gun, we're just going to pin this in position. Put one pin on this side, right here, and then one over here. Okay, go. All right, and then this one you got to be like at about 45 degrees.
Okay.
Down a little lower. There you go.
Lower.
A little lower.
With the blocks attached, we have only one thing left to do before we go inside. Drill some pilot holes into the ledger.
Okay.
Just go ahead, if you would, Alex. You and Brad drill the rest of these. Nice and straight on the drill, vertical. There you go. Okay, guys, now it's time to put this up. I want to create a nice straight line. This is a chalk line here. So, Brad, if you go up the ladder there. Alex, you go up on this ladder and just stand by.
Okay.
Pull the string out.
Okay.
About a foot out, and then. All right, you guys did a really nice job on that line.
All right.
Now, this is the first piece of ledger right here. So bottom edge of this on that blue line.
While Alex and Brett hold the ledger in place, I insert a carbide tip masonry bit into the pilot holes to mark their position on the wall. Using the small holes as guides, I drill larger, deeper holes. A piece of tape on the bit acts as a depth gauge. Into the larger holes, we'll place plastic wall anchors. Then install the screws that will hold the ledger securely to the brick wall. Now it's time to attach the strips of crown molding.
Now we're going to both nail and glue these in place. This is construction adhesive, and we're just going to put a dollop of this on each corner brace right here, just about like this, just about a dime-sized dollop there.
After the construction adhesive is applied, we set the crown molding in place one section at a time, attaching it to the corner blocks and bottom edge of the ledger with a nail gun.
Now this is how we're going to get the lighting behind that Cove molding. It's called cable lighting. It's great stuff to work with. It's very easy to hook sections together. This little connector right here, so you just simply slide this on the end. See these two little pins?
Mm-hmm.
Those pins go right in the end of the cable like this.
Okay.
And so, this plugs right in. Now you can also cut this to length easily. Just have to cut it right on this little scissor symbol right here. I'm going to use a pair of wire cutters here. Snip that. Here. There we go. And then we just screw on this end cap. Here. Yeah. All right, we've plugged our lights in, guys. So now all we've got to do is just put them right behind that crown molding. There you go, right in that trough up there.
This looks really nice, Ron.
Yeah, you like it?
Uh-huh.
It's like Christmas year round, huh?
We couldn't help but admire the effect it was having on the room. The hour was late, though, and for me, it was time to say goodbye.
It turned out just about the way I thought. Happy?
Yeah, definitely. Looks
Okay.
great.
All right, I'm going to head out. I've got to get up early in the morning. So it's a pleasure working with you.
Thanks,
All
Ron.
right. Bye, Ron. Thanks.
Bye-bye.
Looks great, and it
Yeah.
really fancies up your room.
It looks better than we imagined it. It's really nice.
You owe me one.
Big time.
Big time.
Television's Mr. Rogers once said, "Play is often talked about as if it were a relief from serious learning. But for children, play is serious learning. Play is really the work of childhood." What's also true, I believe, is that work can be play in adulthood if we truly love what we're doing. So, until next time, keep up the good play.
To view today's projects again, visit ronhazelton.com, where you'll find hundreds of how-to videos available 24/7.